Hello, folks. Welcome to Scholar Tarot. Just call me Mayfield, and welcome to the study space. Excuse me one moment while I put my little markers here so I know where the camera is. I'm working with a new phone here, so thanks for your patience on this one. Although I have actually run into a little bit of some executive dysfunction because, as with my previous phone, my laptop also kind of took a dump on me. So there went my editing software. So despite having quite a few completed scripts, I am a sitting duck until I get the opportunity to replace that laptop. So, I mean, in the meantime, there is still some stuff that I'm able to share with you, and that I'm actually really excited to share with you. So, why not revisit an old tag called Mid-Year Check-In? So, this tag and its prompts originated from Chanel days, previously called Spirited Stardust, and I had done a VR in that year of 2023. However, I was reminded of it by Witch, who seems to provide updates to this tag fairly consistently. Although her prompts were slightly different, I just used the same questions that I answered in the previous check-in, just for sake of a better comparison for my purposes. But at any rate, I did link Witch's more recent video in the description, so you can check hers out as well. So let's go ahead and dive in with a quick disclaimer. 2025 and 2026 are kind of a blur for me, so in my mind here, this mid-year tag may include anything that I may have worked with in 2025 as well. Thankfully, it's an all-new cast of decks, some of which I haven't shared formally on this channel yet. I guess I'm really just saying that out loud, really more for me. But let's go ahead and get started. I got my little camera markers, and I also have some lemonade because it was really hot outside. I hope you guys are staying hydrated during the summer season, by the way. Southern California has been just blistering for about honestly, it's been blistering since December. So that's what we've been working with. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with my favorite deck of 2026, and I guess 2025 in some cases. We have the Deleted World Tarot by Joshua Urban Davis. So the Deleted World is my current study deck. I still have it in order, as a matter of fact. Here we go. Make sure this is nice and center. Okay, fantastic. So I spoke about really wanting a deck based on liminal spaces in my previous mid-year tag. All those years ago. This year, that yearning was reignited. However, I still ran into a lot of the same problems that I had years ago. And I was kind of overwhelmed by the amount of decks that were close, but still missing the mark of what I was looking for. So a lot of the times there were decks that perhaps maybe had no people in it, like I would expect of a liminal space deck. However, it didn't totally feel empty. Decks that depicted specific spaces, so they were sublime in what you would expect, but none so uncanny as I would hope. And then you even have haunted looking decks, but they're depicting the wrong era. I know, it's very specific, very niche, but that's kind of the mood that I suppose I've been in the last few years. But lo and behold, the closest thing to a liminal space deck was under my nose kind of the entire time, and this was it. So I worked with it before with the Hexen 2.0, but after a brief pause in my practice, I sort of forgot about it. So the Deleted World encompasses a lot of themes that I, as a millennial, appreciate. Not only liminal spaces, but broken promises of a functional world, elements of analog horror, and and as a method, just tarot as a technology. And as a whole, this is a deck that simulates deleted worlds, as the name suggests. I have so much more that I want to say about this deck, which is why it's my current favorite. It finally got the wheels sort of turning up here and made me want to make personal essays again, which I really do hope to share with you someday soon. So let's go ahead and snag that next deck. Deleted World, you go over here. Now, for my new deck of 2026, I'm going to give that up to the Oracle of the Divine by Yoshitani. Let me get the deck out here. So here is the deck. Here are the backs. Okay, so Yoshitani's Oracle of the Divine is a sequel? Maybe a companion? Yeah, let's go ahead and go with companion. Companion to the Tarot of the Divine that was released almost 7 years ago now. Both the Tarot and Oracle of the Divine offer this multicultural look at legends, myths, and fables from all around the world, for better or for worse. What I like about the Oracle, however, is that any given legend or myth that Yoshi depicts is assigned up to around 4 cards with its relevant keyword, plus a handful of like common, what is the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness. Oh, just a handful of cards that are depicting like common items or concepts that are shared throughout the world. This is one of them, actually, the divine fruit. A very sumptuous looking fruit. So I genuinely think that this is the smarter deck of the two, especially if you have the accompanying book, which I do have. Sorry if I stepped away from the mic here, but this is the book that has all of the myths and legends, called Around the Sun. So not only does it offer the entirety of the narratives depicted in the Oracle, just like its predecessor, Beyond the Moon, this one actually goes, a little bit farther. I know this is like super up close and personal, I'm so sorry. But so this is the end of one of the myths, and it has like additional details about, little things in the illustration that not everyone would really catch. And it also has just more information about, I guess, the historical context on how the story may have changed or how it was passed down, which I thought was really awesome. Finally, this came in clutch for bedtime. For bedtime stories with my 2-year-old, which makes this entry extra special. I think I even have, here it is, a commemorative tear in the Trojan War, thanks to the little one, but that's okay. Easy fix. So new deck of 2026 is definitely the Oracle of the Divine. Next one, what do we got here? Check my notes. The most anticipated release for this last year or two. Okay, so for this one, I chose the Hexen 5.0 by Suzanne Treister. So technically, I actually didn't know that the Hexen 2.0 was going to get a sequel, but I just happened to look something up for the Hexen 2.0, and this thickums was listed. So no questions asked, I pre-ordered 2 copies, and once I received it, opened it up, and well, how do I say this? Well, I guess just to be point blank, I haven't worked with it yet since I'm still enjoying the Hexen 2.0, but I expect the 5.0 to be just as delightfully dense as its predecessor. I don't think I've ever done a full flip through of this actually. So we're basically looking at some of these cards together for the first time. But I know for sure that it is supposed to contain some more contemporary concepts of technology and control, which will either be really enlightening or just really daunting. Oh, meta law. That's fun. So yeah, this one I think might be more of a downer. But, we'll see. If anything, I will be perfectly honest with you guys. I am not digging these backs very much, but I guess it does fit how convoluted the actual art is. So I suppose I can't be too mad about it. Okay. So for the next prompt, it was biggest disappointment. So thankfully, I don't have as big a disappointment as I did back in 2023, but I was able to scrounge up one. So for this year, this year, it's going to be the Mindscapes Tarot by John A. Rice. Let me just be clear and say that disappointment is kind of an over-exaggeration, since I have enjoyed pretty much everything that has come into my collection this time around, and this is really no different. But I think it might be a little bit more accurate to say that maybe this is probably the more underwhelming deck that I've received. I have followed this deck since it was in its design phase. I didn't back it at the time though, because at that time I was just capped out on pre-orders and Kickstarters, and I had already had a really wonderful majors only deck, because this was originally just a majors only. That was, what was it? It was by Crystal Banner. It's a 2020 Visions, and I actually still use that deck to this day. But at any rate, I was really excited when I saw a pre-order for the mass market edition, and that it was a full 78 cards instead of the indie major arcana. Looking back, I do kind of wish that I had purchased the Kickstarter version, just with the addition of a more pippish situation that we've got. Let me show you. Let's go ahead a little bit. Little extra cards too. Oh my god, these are sticking together. We're gonna put a pin in that. So we do have an addition of a more pippish narrative, and it seems like the Mindscapes has something to say about, how do I say this? The first thing that comes to mind is this text that I read in grad school called Machine in the Garden, and it was basically about how romantic poets at the time were really annoyed by just, trains being built or something like that in what I guess we could call pastoral America, which there's a whole lot to be said about that. And I wish I remembered the main argument and thesis of that work. But at any rate, that's just what this deck kind of reminds me of. Rice does state that the Mindscapes is largely influenced by romantic art, so that does check out. But I think the pastoral nature of the deck prompts more uncomfortable imagery. Let me actually go back to the death card, because I showed a friend of mine, a colleague, the death card, and then I was like, is it just me, or does this remind me of Machine in the Garden? Because it looks like something out of the remnants of the Revolutionary War. But she thought that this was the yard of some plantation, which would still match the time, but a pastoral deck indeed. then also, like, this is just a me thing, but I don't really appreciate that there are people that are occupying like spaces in this deck. Like, you can see them occasionally. Like, this one's not too bad because it's kind of a shadow. Could be a statue, perhaps. But this one definitely has like a person in there, and I think the tower does too. But I mean, that's just because I have a yearning for liminal spaces right now, which, fine. I also don't like. I suppose I can understand why there's softer round corners, but I feel like a sharper round corner would have been better. But you know, everyone's a critic, I guess. Okay, so the biggest surprise. I actually don't have this deck in my home right now. So the biggest surprise is the Forager's Daughter. I don't have the deck with me. This is exclusively my office deck, but it has easily become my workhorse deck at work. So just as an FYI, in case you're not aware, some indie deck creators may list seconds or misprints or bumped or B-grade versions of their decks on a generous discount. Granted, you consent to getting a defective copy. I'm actually going to say defective because, even though this was one of those purchases, the deck looks perfectly fine. If you're unfamiliar with the Forager's Daughter, by the way, oh my god, I'm not going to do it justice in describing it. It is gold gilded, and it's a more like glossy linen finish. The actual contents of the deck, it's quite pippish. However, it depicts, you know, animals at all stages of different life, and it's really fun to work with. Last I checked, I believe there are 4 extra major arcanas as well, so that was really cool. But I don't really have so much context about, you know, the art of the deck because I did get that seconds copy. A standard copy of the Forager's Daughter is about $80 USD and comes with a box and a guidebook. My miscut copy came naked with no guidebook at $20, and as far as I can tell, it shuffles just fine. And even though I don't really work with animal decks all too well, I think it's been a wonderful addition to my office since I've read for some colleagues, and yeah, this thing does not hold punches. So Forager's Daughter is my biggest surprise, since I don't work with animal decks very often. Okay, so my deck crush. This one was a little bit harder to do this year, because I remember the last time that I did this, what was it? It was the, oh no, I don't remember how to pronounce it. It was that tarot deck that depicted like Aztec mythology by Checkin, I believe his name is. And it has like a whole textbook and everything. So yeah, that one was a lot, and I still have yet to get to it. But this year is perhaps a little bit more accessible, maybe, I don't know. But it's actually going to be the Diablo Tarot. This was definitely an impulse buy, but it was pretty affordable at the time. The cards are huge though, not as big as the Hexen 2.0. But yeah, I mean, I feel pretty confident in handling the decks that I want to work with this time around. But yeah, if I had to choose, it would definitely be Diablo Tarot. I have never played any of the Diablo games, although I have attended a panel discussion over 10 years ago that included the art designer of Diablo 3, so yeah, I guess that's the extent of it. I wish I did know a little bit more about the world and the narrative, because this is like a genuinely dope deck to work with and to look at. I mean, well, it just sucks because I actually don't even know if I would actually get into that series because I just don't have the time for like such a big game like that. It's too late for me. But regardless, I do approach this deck with curiosity and a little bit of intimidation. I know I said this earlier, but come on, look at it. It's huge. Okay, so the deck that made me sad. This was an immediate pick. So it's gonna be the Akamara Tarot. I know this isn't a new deck, and Lolu, the creator of the Akamara Tarot and like the entire series of tarot decks that she makes, like she's not new to me either. But this is basically the last deck by Lolu that I have quote unquote rescued. Yeah, it rescued from my collection, basically. This was another eBay purchase, is really what I'm trying to say. And I'm grateful to have it. However, I'd like to be transparent and share that this is the third time that I am purchasing a deck by Lolu secondhand. It just kind of makes me wish that I had better supported this artist when she was around and more active as a shop owner and, you know, tarot creator. And then it also just kind of makes me question what it means for a deck to be of value that I am willing to spend on. Now I've asked myself this question before. Oh my god, have I been showing you the backs of this? Y'all, that's amazing. In case you're wondering why these are backwards, by the way, I'm reaching out to the seller because I'm actually missing a card, and it's the King of Wands. Anyways, that was funny. All right, so where was I? Well, at least you got a good look at the back art, which is genuinely very stunning. Sometimes you find the most in minimalism every once in a while. But I mean, on that note, like I've asked myself that question before, where it's like, is something as simple as this, like, is this something that is worth, almost $100? You know what I mean? And I don't know, it's just it's just a tough one. It just comes down to taste, and I just have to reckon with myself that my tastes are maybe a little bit more mainstream. Maybe I am that basic bitch, but I mean, I do genuinely like this, and I am looking forward to working with it. I mean, a lot of indie tarot artists, especially those from marginalized backgrounds, can be very minimalist or collage based. And yeah, I mean, I just don't do either of those too well or for very long. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to spend, I think this particular deck was about 89 USD for a deck. And, I say that sentence out loud, and then I feel crummy about it, and then the cycle just repeats itself. I do recall another tarot tuber. I'm so sorry I forgot her name, but I will link her video below. She discusses this phenomenon about, if you, like, so what if you don't have any queer artists or any diverse decks, like, in your collection? That doesn't mean you're inherently racist. Like, if you support those people, like, IRL, you have friends who meet those demographics or what have you, like, you're still like an open and, an open person or something like that. I mean, yeah, you're obviously not inherently racist for not buying decks from marginalized artists. I do agree. But my only pushback is that the structure of marketing is just so heavily based or biased, excuse me, against marginalized creators, specifically Black creators. You just don't really see what they're up to. Like, did you know that Grandma Baby Apothecary did not shut down and actually came out with like another Oracle deck? I do also really like the Archetypes Arcana by Crystal Banner, but even though like I'm the target demographic for this, you know, being a 90s kid, it's just so antithetical to my current mood in liminal spaces. So right now, like, that deck just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If you're a 90s kid, by the way, and in search of a more nostalgic Oracle deck, please check it out. Ikali Sunflower also has a flip through of the Arcana archetypes that I really enjoyed. Links in the doobly-doo, and I mean, also see what's up with Grandma Baby Apothecary. I am really genuinely hoping that Lolu does return. I feel like she has a blog on Substack. Like, she posts stuff on Substack, and I think her website is down, but it is, if I remember correctly, it's like teasing something. So hopefully that will mean that she's returning with, you know, something or other. So hopefully we'll see what that brings us. Okay, so the next two decks are really in the same vein as in the Deleted World, and they are also tied for the next two entries. So let me grab them, take a little sippy sip of my lemonade, and if you have like your water or beverage or something, you should take a sip too. Okay, so the two next entries, the decks that made me happy and my most beautiful decks. So for the first one, sorry, the box is a little strange. This is the Tarot 1 by Adam 1. And this one is the Oracle of Many Paths by James R. Eads. It comes in a bigger box. That box is off to the side. Oh, I'm so used to opening it from the front that I forgot that the back actually has the name of the whatchamacallit, the deck. By the way, I got Adam 1's deck, and this is how it opens. I'll just leave that. I'll just leave that as is. Okay, I'm gonna put these side by side, and hopefully they don't take up too much room. Alright. I know I haven't been like super consistent about this, but I'll show you the backs really quickly. So this is Oracle of Many Paths. This is the Tarot 1. Just gonna flip this over. Alright. So, in all honesty, I thought I was hella done with Eads decks after the Green Glyphs collection. Now, I don't hate the Green Glyphs collection. I just thought I was done. Because I do have like some of his other stuff. I have the Prisma Visions, the Light Visions, and the Cosma Visions. So I was like, okay, you've had your time in my wallet. It's time to move on. But you know, every once in a while he'll have a moving sale. So yeah, I purchased this deck back in April when he was moving locations of his studio. So he just roped me back in, you know, just as per usual. Tarot 1 was actually marketed by the artist himself on Reddit, which is how I found it. Both decks' concepts are what I would say are happier versions of the Deleted World Tarot. It's not necessarily that something was deleted. It's either the parallel worlds that exist, or that we have purpose in a destroyed world to serve our community. Both premises are basically decisions that we can make. So what next? Style-wise, the Oracle of Many Paths is typical Eads Impressionism. You know, those Van Gogh swirls and Monet pointillism that, you know, we all just kind of know and love from the Visions collection, just are out and proud here. It's got an incredibly, like, autumn hue to it, I feel. Very orange. I'd say that because, you know, Prism of Visions is very blue and wintry and explores, you know, the dream world, while the Cosmovisions is, you know, a spring deck and tackles the afterlife. Many Paths is very orange and is literally a navigation map for parallel universes. It stands on its own with its specialized concept of parallel universes and pathways that we partake in. Now, as for the Tarot 1, the style is, I mean, it's just sketch. I mean, looks like sketches. If you can see it a little bit closer. Specifically, these are sketches of, you know, people who are representing a specific role. Like, as I've been... I actually find this funny. I didn't notice this, but, you know, putting them together... The Oracle of Many Paths, I understand it's labeled as an oracle, but it is also technically a tarot deck. But since it's more heavily used in, like you're supposed to use numerology for it, literally all there is a number. Like, that's all that it is. Meanwhile, here we have, you know, Page of Cups down here, and then we have a I wouldn't even call it a keyword. It's a role. Like, that's what that... Most of the time, that's what that is. Like what's the next one? It's a wish. At any rate. So as you can see, it does have like gold edges with some gold accents in the art. This deck takes place in a dystopian world that can now be rebuilt by these archetypes or by these actions. And in serving their community, they kind of make this dystopia into a utopia. So this is pretty much the in-between, the liminal. Not necessarily between space, but between eras. And honestly, I feel like this is like very cyberpunk, just without the grittiness. And also, now that I say that out loud, I do find it fascinating that the cyberpunk aesthetic usually takes place in, like, diverse dystopias, where steampunk, like, takes place in homogenous utopias. That's so curious. At any rate, both of these decks are beautiful in style and in concept. And I feel like I can get a lot of comfort in playing with some of these premises. Okay. So as I put these back in their rightful spaces, I will go ahead and share with you decks that I plan to receive by the end of the year, because I have a couple of them. Yeah, this year was definitely a year of me getting back into not only my practice, but my collecting. I've just had such a difficult time collecting tarot decks, just because, I mean, with AI generated decks, it's been so unfun having to shop around, which is why I even find myself in places like eBay, because a lot of the times those decks are, you know, pre-owned tarot decks that were for sure made by a human, you know, very pre 2022, or whenever AI started rearing its ugly head in our tarot spaces. So the first one that I'm going to share with you, interestingly enough, it is a cyberpunk deck. It is the Technobrae 2.0 by Pixel Occult. It just funded, and if you're not familiar with James' work ethic, once their campaigns close, you're getting that deck in like 2 months. Like, if that. James from Pixel Occult is what I would call a career tarot artist. Like, just making deck after deck. And I think all of them are basically cyberpunk. And the best part is that they're also all incredibly inclusive of ethnicity, body type, and gender and ability. The Technobrae is no different. I believe the difference in this edition, because it is, a second edition, is that the first edition was black and white. Sorry, I'm putting some of my other cards away. And then this new edition is yellow. I was going to say something brilliant and I forgot what it was. But yeah, that would be one of the decks that I would expect by the end of the year. The other deck, and this one is still, at the time of recording this, is in its Kickstarter phase now. It's the School of Heart Oracle by Una in Space. This is another deck that was marketed on the Tarot Decks subreddit by the artist. And I think it's going to be wrapping up sometime this month in July. It funded within an hour, and it just kind of ballooned from there. I think last I checked, it's at like 200K, which is a lot. Okay, so I guess the deck. So it's really less of a concept and more of an adaptation of a series of quote-unquote emblems by a 17th century poet named George Withers. Una in Space specifies that this large collection of texts were more of like a lottery system, similar to an affirmation deck or an oracle deck, hence the School of Heart Oracle. The target shipping date for this deck is December 2026, yet given how this campaign did blow past its goal, it could very well arrive a few months later, which is perfectly fine and standard. So, what did I learn from this tag in this year of our Lord 2026, and I guess 2025 for that matter? Well, I guess with the exception of an entry or two, it appears that this was the year of post-apocalyptic decks. I have this yearning to make sense of decayed nostalgia that comes with living in a world that you find yourself quite unhappy with. Finding meaning in empty spaces. I was just kind of musing about this a while ago. I mean, I myself am very happy and fulfilled with the things that I've accomplished in my life so far, and I look forward to more. And yet, I'm incredibly frustrated with the world that we ended up getting. That it just doesn't match and it doesn't compute, and it's all so awful, and I'm so sorry, and I don't really know what to do with that. I just know that I'm very tired, and I don't know. Like, I want to continue working towards a better world, as the Oracle of Many Paths encourages, as the Tarot One encourages, and in some ways, in the way that the Deleted World might help me process through, or might help any millennial my age to process through. But that would be a whole Mayfield's office hour that I don't think anyone is interested in listening to. But yeah, that's basically the tag. On that happy note, I hope you enjoyed checking out some of the tarot decks that I've brought into my collection in the last couple years. I do really hope to get a move on getting some new tech to actually be able to edit these things, because they can't be fun to listen to when they're unedited. Or maybe they are. Who knows? Like, it's all a matter of taste, I suppose. But until next time, folks, we'll go ahead and make discourse, not war, in the comments, and I guess anywhere else you might go. And I will see you next time. Bye.